public hearing is on the Eskom's application for a 6-year negotiated price agreement for Glencore-Merafe Chrome Venture ferrochrome smelter operations in Rustenburg in the Northwest. My name is Nhlanhla Gumede. Can I request members, colleagues, as you join, please mute your mic. Please mute yourself, please, as you join. Appreciate it. As indicated, that my name is Nhlanhla Gumede. I'm the full-time regulator member, primarily responsible for electricity regulation. I'll be the chairperson of this hearing. I'd like to introduce the members of the panel, and if they can perhaps just switch on their video just for a moment for them, so people would know who they are actually talking to. Hopefully, all of the members are actually familiar to everybody now. But can I just start? Not in any order. Can I start with Ms. Nomfundo Maseti, who's a full-time member of the regulator, primarily responsible for pipe gas regulation, who's a member of the ELS. Madam Maseti.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning to everyone on the call. Chairperson, I will activate my video in a few minutes from now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. I'd also like to introduce Mr. Muzi Mkhize, who is a full-time regulator member, primarily responsible for petroleum pipeline regulation and also a member of the ELS. Mr. Mkhize.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will exit my video later on. I still have here, but good morning on that is in the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I'd also like to then introduce Mr. Thembani Pukula, who is the chairperson of NESA and a member of the ELS. Mr. Pukula. I know that he's available. He will probably come on later. Also like to then introduce Advocate Nomalanga Sithole, who is the CEO at NESA and a member of the ELS. Advocate Sithole. You are on mute, ma'am.
Apologies. Good morning, Chairperson, members of management and support staff, and all our stakeholders who have joined us for this public hearing today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Advocate Sithole. I'd also like to then introduce, last but not least, Slobo. May I introduce Ms. Precious Sibia, who's a part-time regulator member and a member of the ELS. Madam Sibia.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Precious Sibia. I said I'm a part-time regulator member and a member of ELS. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, members. This hearing was duly advertised in the Business Day, the Star, the Mercury, Cape Town's, NESA website, and all NESA social media platforms. This hearing is held in accordance with the National Energy Regulator Act, in which all affected parties are given an opportunity to submit their views and to present relevant facts and evidence to the energy regulator. The hearing is governed by NESA rules on public hearings, which can be summarized as follows. All parties will be required to make their presentations under oath. Presenters have been allocated 30 minutes each, although 40 minutes have been provided to the applicant, Eskom, if they will need that. Thirdly, only members of the panel may ask questions to the presenters. However, the members of the public may forward their questions to Lelaine Hutting at the email to the email address Lelaine, LILANE .hutting@nersa.org.za, and the panel will decide on how to deal with those questions. Should the presenters wish to present information they consider confidential, the panel will make a ruling on whether to close the hearing or to hear the information submitted in writing. The recording of this hearing which is being done through our microphones, will be the official record of this meeting. The house rules for the meeting: please keep your mics on mute when you are not presenting. When presenting, kindly switch all your cell phones to silent. And lastly, we request that you please switch off your video at all times, unless requested to switch it on. We've received three requests to present today, namely one from Eskom, Mr. Trevor Marburg, one from Glencore, but who's also representing the South African ferrochrome industry, Mr. Yapi Fulad, and lastly, one from Ms. Pagamile Hlubi Majola from NUMSA. We will start the conversation today with a presentation from Mr. Trevor Marburg. Trevor, if you don't mind, please, if you can switch on your video so we can go through the formalities.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I still can't get used to that face without without a beard. Okay. Can I just ask, do you object to taking an oath or an affirmation?
I do not object.
In that case, kindly raise your right hand and affirm the following. Do you solemnly declare that the information or the evidence that you are going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
For the record, if you can kindly state your name, the organization you are representing, and your designation in it, please.
I'm Trevor Leon Marburg. I'm representing Eskom. I'm the Senior Manager in Corporate Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Marburg. You've got your 40 minutes. I'm assuming they've been given rights to present.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We do have just 2 slides. And I know you commented this is out of the ordinary for Eskom, only having 2 slides. But I think while that is being flighted, my colleague Jenny Bartman will flight that. But just to introduce from an Eskom perspective, we do have Jenny Bartman and Damesh Bana. They were both part of the team that assisted in putting this deal together for the ferrochrome industry. And then I also have a number of my regulatory colleagues, and I know you probably know all of them, Dolnawaz, Hasha, I think I saw Janita as well on the line, so just by way of introduction. So Chair, yeah, let me get into it. As you are aware, we did a similar representations, I think if I remember correctly, on the 1st of September, where we covered both the Samancor, 6 of the Samancor smelters and 4 of the Glencore smelters. Those 10, of course, are all directly supplied by Eskom. I won't go into the history and in much detail, but needless to say, and I think I just need to point out that while this, and you, Chair, you have referenced this as Eskom's application, we need to, clearly state that the Rustenburg smelter is not an Eskom client and customer. They are a customer of the Rustenburg local municipality, and we have an ESA with the Rustenburg municipality. We included the Rustenburg smelter in our application, basically because what Eskom is proposing, and this was negotiated with Glencore-Merafe chrome, that what we as Eskom could provide to them would be exactly the same as we would be providing to their 4 other smelters, and effectively the same as the Samancor. And that was really to ensure fairness within the industry, and should any other ferrochrome industry players come along, this is pretty much what we would be prepared to offer. And of course, it covers the competition, issues and any disputes that may arise on that. So, Chair, with regards to this specific one, as I say, we did include it. However, it was with a caveat to say it is subject to the Rustenburg local municipality agreement. And we are aware, and I think there has been a court case as well. There was numerous discussions, and there was a certain outcome as well. But I think, again, just to re-emphasize our understanding, they supported it, subject to an addition, and the court set aside and said that may not be claimed. And I know there is an ongoing process there as well. But notwithstanding that, we will take you through the salient features of this, and I will come back to exactly that same point. So the proposed terms, really, I think by way of where I am on the slide, the first 2 points have been, covered. I think with regard to point number 3, I have indicated the terms, the pricing, the demand response, the unforeseen taxes, all those aspects are exactly the same as what the NERSA board have considered for the other 10. So there's no introduction of anything new from an Eskom perspective. So as and as it pointed out, that just results in fairness. I think, Chair, just moving on to our point number 4. So, of course, this application, being a joint application, or the framework requires a joint application, as indicated. We included ours and, indicated the Rustenburg local municipality would have to also put something in. The reason, or we deem 2 separate documents to fit the definition of joint, because as you would be aware, having seen the Eskom application, there's a lot of confidential Eskom information that we provide NERSA with, and that is not information that we would share with the Rustenburg municipality, and we do believe it is critical information to be provided to NERSA for you to adjudicate on the merits of this. So hence we do believe, this methodology, does address the joint. Both parties need to come and support it in effect. With regard to the criterion, or maybe just to flag it, and your consultation paper, does cover it. The criteria for the long-term framework is basically provide a competitive international price, which this does do, and a lot of detail of that was contained in our application. And then there are certain criteria with regard to electricity needs to be one of the 3 largest costs. Really, basically, that is an electricity intensive industry, and that electricity can make a difference, or the price thereof. The load factor has to be greater than 70%, and the consumption needs to be greater than 80 gigawatt hours. The Rustenburg smelter meets all of that, as well as all of the other softer issues that are also set out. And our application, to you would have indicated against those criteria exactly, how they were met, and where, and where relevant, the values were quantified. I think, Chair, moving on to really the application on this, and I think this is possibly your discussion ahead of time, and that, the court order that we, of course, were named as a respondent, and we basically took the position we would abide by the decision of the court. They all indicated that Eskom is the de facto supplier as the energy is delivered through the Eskom infrastructure. That we recognize. However, and again, we just need to emphasize, the Rustenburg smelter falls within the licensed area of the Rustenburg local municipality. We have a ESA, or Standard Electricity Supply Agreement, with the Rustenburg smelter that includes this load, notwithstanding what the flow of electrons and the substation that is supplying the Rustenburg smelter. So our assumption here is that the contractual relationship would remain unchanged. We would basically the terms and conditions, pricing, etc., as indicated in our documentation, would be provided to the Rustenburg local municipality, who would pass that on to the Rustenburg smelter. And hence there would be 2 different agreements, really, the Eskom Rustenburg local Munich, and the local Munich together with the Rustenburg smelter then. So, Chair, I think, I don't want to go into, too much detail, because it would just be a repeat. However, we just need to flag, given the timing of this, our intent on these other 10 that have been approved, we are pushing ahead to implement them on the 1st of January. The ideal would be that, if approved by NERSA, that implementation of this would align. However, we do foresee significant, and notwithstanding any court action that does arise, but we do foresee certain challenges with regard to getting the legal documentation in place, given that there is another party involved, being the local municipality. Chair, I'm going to stop at that point, and I know there'll be questions, but I'm happy to field any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marburg. Very well delivered. By the way, before I open the matter to the colleagues, to the members of the ELS to then ask you questions, can I just request that the other presenters, Yapi, please, if you could forward your presentation through to Lelaine, please. Lelaine.Hutting@nersa.org.za, so that the members can have a copy of it. It makes the actual engagement a whole lot easier. I'm not sure if Madam Hlubi Majola is also going to be making a presentation. If you are, ma'am, if you can do the same, we'll really appreciate that. But thank you. Can we then come back to Eskom? Members, you've got the presentation from Eskom. If you can engage with it, please. If you've got any questions for Mr. Marburg. Starting with Madam Massetti. If you can go first, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Mr. Marburg, for the presentation. I just want to start off, just so that we make sure when we make a thorough evaluation of this application that it fully complies with the framework that we are implementing. So these questions that I'm going to ask are questions that seek to have full understanding of whether or not the application before us complies with the document that we need to implement. First of all, I just want to understand who is the owner of the electrons that are supplied to this ferrochrome. You indicated that the Glencore smelter is not the direct customer of Eskom, right? Because the infrastructure is owned by Eskom. But who is the owner of the electrons in this case that are supplied to the smelter? That's the first question. And then the second one, in terms of the tariff that is charged here, is it the tariffs that are approved for Eskom or the tariffs that are approved for the municipality? How does it work, that pricing? The component for the infrastructure that is owned by Eskom and also for the electrons that are being supplied here to the customer, given that there are two parties, there are two licensees basically that are involved here in the supply. So if you can just clarify the aspect of infrastructure as well as electrons and the tariff, how it works and who makes who invoices and determine the tariffs. Now, I would like to also just find out, because we're dealing with the negotiated pricing agreement here. Now, who are the parties to this agreement? Because this, for us, is very important. And this agreement is the agreement that entails an agreement on the pricing for this customer. So we need to know who are the parties to this agreement. And also, if you can clarify the role of the municipality here clearly, so that in simple terms, what is the role of the municipality, apart from the fact that the supply itself occurs in an area of distribution of the municipality, apart from that, but we would like to understand exactly in this supply, what is the role of the municipality, if you can clarify that. The fourth thing that I would like to find out relates to the crucial information that is in possession of the Rustenburg municipality. You mentioned that there is information that is in possession of the Rustenburg municipality, which NERSA should be able to adjudicate or is crucial for NERSA to adjudicate as part of this application. Are you able to just, indicate the nature of that information to the extent that that information is crucial and we need to have it, so that we can have sufficient information before us when we take the decision? Are you able to at least indicate that information that is in the possession of the municipality? That is the last question from me, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Maseti. Members, any other question? If not, it seems like Madam Maseti has covered all of us. So over to you, Trevor, if you can assist us, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm going to start with the last point, and just to correct and possibly it was just misheard. What I indicated with regard to confidential information, it was in the context of the long-term or interim long-term framework requires a joint application. The word joint application is stated, and the practicalities of a joint application have certain challenges, and what I was flagging was that in the Eskom applications, the document that you would have received, there's a lot of confidential Eskom information. So there's a lot of calculations, there graphs, etc., that indicate Eskom information, and that information Eskom are not prepared to, and RLM has no right to that information. So it's not the municipality information. This is Eskom information. So yeah, so I think the question sort of said, what information does RLM have? No, I was referring to Eskom information that we don't share with the municipality. So hopefully that sort of clears that point. So the Eskom information is provided to NERSA to assist you in your adjudication thereof. All right. So hopefully that one covers that. Yeah. So Chair, and Ms. Maseti's introduction said, just wants to confirm that it complies with the framework, and I can confirm it complies with all of the criteria, the hard criteria as I indicated, just from size, load factor, highest three costs, etc. And there are numerous other aspects as well. And I know in your team's review, they go through that and really validate that what we are saying is correct as well. The only point that is subject to interpretation is the term joint application, which I have gone into to say, the practicality of joint is there's just, information that we can't be sharing with them. I know the Rustenburg municipality says everything they have is in public domain, so they would be able to share. But I think our representation is that we included this, so our document should be seen as one part of the joint application, and the Rustenburg local municipality representations would be the second part of the application. The two together meets the definition of joint. And yeah, we could debate that for years to come, but I think that is probably the most practical way to deal with this. This is also the first test case that we have of a customer behind the Munich lines. And, so I think, setting this as the precedent is hopefully something that will carry forward. Yeah. Chair, moving on to the question with regard to who owns the electrons, I think that's a very difficult question, to own, because, in the strictest sense, all electrons that flow throughout South Africa come from, from Eskom, be it by way of Eskom own generation or be it by way of IPPs or Cahora Bassa power that is imported. And yes, we do have, more now, given the allowance with regard to other participation in private, to private, PPAs, etc., that Eskom just wheels. So the electron basically would flow, and it is more a legal issue of at what point does the electron flow into someone else, and someone else has a legal obligation to pay for that. And Chair, this is, I think, really what I think we try to cover, with regard to exactly this, is yes, there are municipal boundaries, and that is. Eskom did not put that in place. That is really your function as NERSA, and the boundary where Eskom sort of right to operate stops is at the substation at the smelter. After that, it goes into the Rustenburg local municipality's licensed area of supply. So the minute it crosses that boundary, they have that right to distribute. We don't. And hence, from a legal structure perspective, and let's take now prior to the NPA, Eskom invoices the Rustenburg local municipality for all electricity that is delivered through the various points of delivery, and one we recognize is the smelter substation. So it is that contractual and that boundary that is a NERSA responsibility. So yeah, so when you say, who would now be the parties to the NPA? Eskom recognizes the license area. So the Eskom view is we cannot just go and, regardless of whether we are the de facto supplier, because the electrons just cross the boundary from our infrastructure straight into a customer infrastructure. You've got to look at the boundary and the license area. So our view is that, given this, unless those boundaries change, and I can't comment on what process, etc., NERSA would have to follow for any changes like that. So our perspective on this is that Eskom would contract with the Rustenburg local municipality. We have a standard agreement. We would carve out the current megaflex energy related to the smelter from that, and we would then bill the Rustenburg local municipality for this NPA energy. The legal agreement would have to say this is done on condition you hand that through to the Rustenburg municipality, and it's for NERSA to adjudicate whether there is anything additional to the Eskom tariff. So the parties would be Eskom, RLM, and then RLM would have a back-to-back agreement with the Rustenburg smelter. So that is who we see the parties are. With regard to the tariff that we are offering, and for confidentiality reasons, I won't mention the numbers and the terms and the escalation. That tariff that we are offering, while structured, having various fixed and variable charges, pretty much following the megaflex structure. Those charges include all of the Eskom costs. So it includes the generation costs. It covers our transmission, wheeling charges, etc. Covers the substation costs, etc. as well. So I think, Chair, that covers it. And I think the role of the municipality, I think I have indicated they're the licensee. So their role is as licensee to contract with the RLM. Sorry, with the Rustenburg smelter. As I say, we have no contractual relationship with the Rustenburg smelter. We have a contractual relationship with the Rustenburg local municipality because they are the distributor in that environment. So, Chair, I think I have covered all of the questions, but I'm happy to take anything more or any areas of clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marbeck. I think your answers may have triggered the question from Ms. Bia. If you can proceed, ma'am. You can proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Marbeck. You clarified one thing for me, which is very critical, the issue of the contracting parties. To say the contracting parties will be the Rustenburg municipality and the smelter. My question is then, when you look at this contract saying that you would like to implement it by January, both parties looked at the implications then of Section 33 of MFMA, which says that all contracts that are 3 years and above, or more than 3 years, needs the public participation before the municipality signs. I just wanted to raise that issue, if the municipality then will be signing this agreement, because all agreements beyond the 3 years, in terms of MFMA, they need a public participation process, and that will result also in the delay of this process. Are you aware of that requirement? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Sbia. Mr. Mkhize? You may be on mute, sir.
Oh, thank you, Chairperson. I appreciate the responses from Mr. Mabel. I would just like to know, in terms of the cost-benefit analysis, one takes it that they would look at a local level together, maybe with the LED of the municipality, and then at a national level. I just would like to know how satisfied is he with the cost-benefit analysis done at the municipal level, where there is a benefit that is gained by this NPA at now a local level, vis-a-vis other costs that or income that a municipality might have to forego, so that you end up with a net benefit that will then be extracted from the operation of the municipality, sort of this smelter, as opposed to a situation where there is no smelter at all. That is my first question. Secondly, in this kind of a situation, is there any opportunity from their side of some kind of an agency agreement where, irrespective of the contracting, they can have a kind of a contract that then can make them have an agency agreement that enables them to act fully so on behalf of a municipality, as yes, I already alluded to the fact that this is a first instance where you've got a municipality sitting in the middle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I see Madam Maseti has a follow-up. Madam Maseti.
Thank you, Chair. It's a quick follow-up. Mr. Maybeck, you, as I asked about who owns the electrons, I'm asking because, as you know, that in the Electricity Regulations Act, we recognize bulk purchases, right? And the bulk purchases, sometimes the municipalities will be buying from Eskom, and the municipalities become distributors, just like Eskom is also licensed as a distributor. So, so they will be competing at some stage. So, are you saying now, when you try to explain the role of the municipality, are you simply explaining it simply because the municipality has a right to distribute electricity in its area of supply, or are you also recognizing that the municipality is buying the electricity in bulk from Eskom and pay Eskom, and Eskom also invoices the municipality for that bulk purchase? Can you clarify it for me on the basis of what we have in the Act, what is recognized in the Act? I think for us, that becomes important, at least for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Let's just see. I think you have all the questions. If you can just help assist us, Mr. Mabek. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And, I think the first couple of questions, I think my answer has to be, I can't answer for the Rustenburg local municipality. So, with regard to the MFA, the Eskom arrangement with this is we would be selling to the municipality, and the municipality would have to follow all relevant processes and adhere to all relevant legislation that is applicable to them. From an Eskom perspective, with these NPAs, we are subject to the Public Finance Management Act, which only requires approval from DPE with concurrence from National Treasury for NPAs longer than 10 years. So from 6 years, so from an Eskom perspective, we had adhered to everything. I think with regard to the Rustenburg local municipality, they would have to follow the necessary processes. Whether they have or have not, I would not be in any position to actually answer. I take note of Mr. Sevilla's, noting that anything in excess of 3 years. So I know Glencore did engage with the Rustenburg local municipality over an extended period. We did also request engagement over quite an extended period, and eventually did have engagements with them to articulate this. So as I say, if they have not followed that, it's a very important point, and I guess a consideration of, has due process been covered from their perspective? As again, I cannot comment. Chair, moving on to Mr. McKee's questions with regard to the cost benefit at the local level, and again, Eskom looks at this and our application or our submission covering all of the other 10 smelters, went into the detail from a macro perspective, SA Inc. perspective, retaining this. Essentially, one of Eskom's, as a group of company or as an industry, one of our largest, industries that we do support. South Africa, owning 80 to 90% of the chrome ore reserves, and only exporting that versus beneficiating it. And I think the multiplier effect indicated of rather beneficiating is 5 times. We did cover the job loss issues, etc. at a macro level, and Chair, I would submit those same implications would be at a municipal level. If Rustenburg smelter was not there anymore, the Rustenburg environment would be impacted from a job perspective, from a direct jobs as well as indirect and other industries that are reliant on supporting it. And from a macro perspective, what they are beneficiating, that all would probably just hit the trucks and be on our roads or on our rail, and been exported as well. And that the same holds true for the other 10 that have been approved as well, which are in various areas as well. So the cost benefits specific to Rustenburg, we did not go into that micro level, but I would submit that the same, there would possibly be even a larger impact, being Rustenburg. Yes, there is mining communities out there. Mining is hitting certain challenges, etc. So without knowing the finite detail and numbers, I would submit there would be a significant negative impact within the Rustenburg should the smelter not continue to operate. And as I said, that is why Eskom is proposing, and we want to see this NPA in place to sustain the Rustenburg smelter. I think we're just flagging that there is someone else that needs to be party to this as well, because of the license areas. So, Chair, with regard to the an agency agreement, again, I think that we did indicate to the Rustenburg local municipality. We met with the acting municipal manager. We've provided a lot of information. We went into finite detail on what tariffs, etc., the escalation, all that would be. For us to, it's difficult to comment. I think they recognize their role. They like this being in their licensed area. What they do, regardless of where the electrons flow, etc. So, if that is, I guess it is something that can be broached, but my take on it is, and I think given that the Rustenburg local municipality did look to put a surcharge on top of this. I suspect they, and we have noted that they have indicated that they are going to appeal the court order. So I'm assuming an agency agreement is not going to be something uppermost in their minds. I think they are still looking for some form of surcharge, etc. But I think only time will tell on how that works out. But yeah, I think if this is approved, we are going to have to engage and find out how contractually we do arrange it. Be it this back-to-back, be it the agency agreement. The agency agreement, again, would have to fall within, NERSA legislation, etc. And, does it contradict or conflict with any of the license conditions of RLM or any other municipality for that? And then, Chair, moving on to the bulk purchase issue, Ms. Massetti's point. So, yeah, I think, maybe just to touch at a high level, most municipalities, if not all, normally have various points of delivery, and energy gets metered at those various points. They get added together or summated, and the relevant charges levied, and then they get this bill. So you can have, and I guess Johannesburg, the big metros have numerous points of delivery. The Rustenburg municipality, and I did know, but I can't quote it offhand how many points of delivery they have, but it would be a summation. So that is the bulk supply. All those measurements added together, that's the NMDs, that's the volumes, etc., times the applicable tariff. So there, that, I guess, Ms. Massetti would then talk to the bulk purchase, and that is what we do. I think as indicated, this adds just that sort of a variation to that, because yes, they are still getting all the energy, but portion of that energy that flows to the Rustenburg smelter would then come at the NPA tariffs. Chair, I think I have covered everything, but I'm happy to take anything further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mabek. Just one last question from me. Does Rustenburg local municipality support this application?
Chair, our engagements with them, I think they were very clear that they did indicate they supported it, and the letters that they submitted at the same time as we put in the applications for the Samancor and Glencore NPAs, their letter did indicate support. I think they obviously recognize the importance of keeping the smelter there, and I think their concern that we did engage them with was they just wanted to say, well, Eskom, if you're saying, this is the tariff, are you going to charge us that tariff and then we pass through? Because they had a concern, we'll still charge full megaflex, and they are obligated to provide the NPA. So no, that let's say concern was cleared, and hence me saying, we'd have to have the back-to-back, that what we offer has to be handed through. So do they support? They definitely support the Eskom portion. Chair, given the proceedings of the last number of months, I think where they are stuck is they do believe, and I have read all of the court papers, etc., and there seems to be the issue seems to go back many, many years, that they do have an issue that they should be entitled to charge something on top of it. They do not currently charge anything on top of the megaflex that Eskom charges for the Rustenburg load. I think they believe that there should be something, and yeah, that is not an Eskom issue. That is really, I think, a NERSA RLM issue. So, Chair, hopefully I've answered your question.
Thank you. It's actually a constitutional issue, but thank you, Mr. Mabek, and thank you for the presentation. I'd like to thank Eskom for your application, and also for the presentation that is supporting it. So on behalf of NERSA, we'd like to thank you, Eskom, and then we'll move on to the next presentation, which is from Mr. Yapi Fulahard. Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you, Chair.
Right. Just to remind stakeholders that if you've got any question, please send it through to Ms. Lelaine Hutting, that she has shared her email on the chat. and or send it. Yeah, and you can put your question on chat as well, because only the members of the panel may ask questions to the presenters. But with that, can I then welcome Mr. Yapi Fullard, who's representing Glencore as well as representing the South African chrome industry. Before we start, Mr. Fullard, can I just go through the formalities? The first one is, as you know, that all of the presentations here are made under oath. Would you object to taking an oath or an affirmation?
No.
Okay, in that case, kindly raise your right hand and affirm the following. Do you solemnly declare that the evidence or the information that you are going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Thank you. In that particular case, for the record, please state your name, the organization that you are representing today, and your designation in it, please.
Good morning, colleagues. Yapi Fullard. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Glencore Alloys, also representing the Rustenburg smelter.
Thank you, Mr. Fullard. You've got 30 minutes for your presentation, and then thereafter, colleagues will pose questions. And I see your presentation is already loaded. You can proceed, please. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jan, if I can just ask you to just first drop. No, sorry. If you just can please first drop the presentation. I'm going to ask you to just put it up again. I just quickly want to introduce the member of my team, please, if you don't mind. Thank you for that. So I just quickly want to introduce my team as well. And we've got a host of people from Glencore, PSV, Merafe online. And the first one, Amanda Magru, if you could just switch on your video, please, just to show. Thanks. That's Amanda Magru, and she's responsible.
Good morning.
She's responsible for all the smelters in the PSV. Thanks, Amanda. And then also, if I can ask Christoph Bester, if you can switch on your video.
Sorry, Mr. Fullard. Can I understand, are they going to also be contributing to the presentation? In which case, if they are, I would actually have to swear them in.
No.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then also, thank you for that, Christoph. Christoph is the general manager responsible for the smelter. And then also I've got Richard Ward. He's our legal counsel. And I think Richard most probably could answer some of the legal issues. So I would like you to please go through the process, Mr. Chair, there with Richard, if you don't mind.
Thank you. So, Richard, I guess, issue with the lawyers, we never know. Are you going to be answering to the to just legal questions, or are you going to, or can we swear you in terms of you giving evidence? Would you be comfortable with us to swear you in? You are on mute, sir.
Mr. Chair, absolutely, I'd be comfortable. I'm just here in the event that there are certain questions that Yapi would like clarified that arise out of his presentation or arise out of questions from those attending this meeting. So I'm quite happy to take the oath as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. In that case, kindly raise your right hand and affirm the following. Do you solemnly declare that the evidence or the information that you will give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Indeed, absolutely. I do.
For the record, please just state your name, your organization, and your designation, please.
My full name is Richard John Rawdon Ward. I am Group Legal Counsel for Glencore Operations South Africa, and I also act for the Pooling and Sharing Venture.
Thank you. In that case, Mr. Fullard, please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jan. Just before you put it up, I just quickly want to summarize in terms of what I am going to present today. Obviously, just want to give feedback from the Eskom presentation. I think it was a very, very good presentation. Trevor, thank you for that. I think the one thing that stood out for me was the issue of fairness. First of all, us as the PSV feels that if there are 10 smelters into the MPA and the one smelter like the Rustenburg smelter is outside, we believe that that's definitely not a part of the fairness So we do believe that that fairness should prevail. I also would just like to state, and I am going to go through the presentation, that the Rustenburg smelter is the only smelter within the PSV that's currently still standing, or still not operating. It's still not operating because of the fact that within our PSV, it's the highest cost smelter within the PSV. And if you have a look at where we are in the ferrochrome industry, to start it up will be value destroying. So without an MPA, I can just say that the Rustenburg smelter livelihood would be questionable. I also just want to respond in terms of the judgment. I do just want to say that there was a legal court case between ourselves, Rustenburg local municipality, and also NERSA, and also Eskom, and the judgment was in our favor. But one thing that I do want to just recognize and thank the Rustenburg local municipality is that they did agree, and we do have that evidence, Mr. Chair, that they do support the MPAs. So that is the first step, which is really quite positive. We also want to just reflect on the fact that the agreement will be between Eskom and the Rustenburg local municipality as a first step, and then there will be an agreement between ourselves and the Rustenburg local municipality. So that we've got no problem with. I do, however, want to just say that there's currently no services being rendered to us as the PSV by the Rustenburg local municipality in terms of managing the electrons. So I think that's also quite important. I am going to flag the presentation, and in the presentation you'll see that there's quite a lot of reference in terms of value add. We are going to talk about also employment, going to talk about upstream and downstream impact, and also I am going to have a conclusion. I do just want to highlight that the PSV currently uses about 3% of the total Eskom supply, which is quite significant. I think also Mr. Maibach referred to the multipliers, also touch on that. But I do want to say that we strongly believe that as the PSV, beneficiation is critical in South Africa. We believe that for any one job or one ferrochrome ton that you do not produce and you export a job with that. So the multiplier is 5 times that of chrome ore. Thanks. Let's then quickly go to the presentation. Thanks, Jan. You will see the presentation as well is very much the same as what I did present the previous time. If we go to the first page, I'm going to go through that fairly quickly. Just here on the left-hand side, you'll see the ferrochrome industry in South Africa contributes about 122,000 or 123,000 jobs, total jobs. There's a 62 billion contribution to the GDP. I think what's critical to note, and I also do know that Mr. Maibach touched on this, but SA has got, South Africa has got very close to about 80% of the world's chrome reserves. And for that, we do believe that beneficiation should start exactly where, we do have the chrome. We are currently the second largest ferrochrome producer in the world. And I'm going to show you later that how that deteriorated a couple of years ago. We were number one by far. And, also then the specific reasons for that. If you then have a look at that, we also just go back, Jan, if you don't mind. So 9.6 billion loss, estimated loss in Eskom revenue due to idle capacity. So We've got about 5.4 million tons of ferrochrome production currently in South Africa. So that means that we can smelt in the region of about 11 million tons of chrome ore, but 2.1 million tons of that currently is idle. Thanks. Now we can go to the next one, Jan. This is just to show the national GDP and local beneficiation in terms of the contribution towards, the South African, revenue. And there you can see that in 2022, that's where the 62 billion comes from. So it's quite significant. And you also see during the time period from 2017 down to 2020, there was a steady decline, and that was just because of the competitive edge that we are starting to lose. We can go to the next one, Jan. Thanks. Yeah, so this is just a reflection, and I think this is a very important reflection for us as South Africans. If you have a look at 2001, South Africa produced 51% of the world's ferrochrome. China at that time only produced 5%. Currently, where we stand now, you can see that during 2011, 2014, actually China surpassed us. They're now sitting on 47%. And that is, by the way, with our chrome. So 80% of the chrome requirements comes from South Africa. And currently we are standing on 23, and it's definitely lifelines or parameters like the MPA that will at least make us keep that 23% and not go further down. Thanks, Jan. We can go to the next one. This is just to show you a comparison in terms of electricity cost in South Africa and what happened from 2010. I mean, that's not so long ago. It's 13 years ago, where just in terms of growth, and you can see there was a 300% increase from 2021. And I can tell you that since 2020, I mean, if you just look back from 2008, the increase is 523% compared to the same time period. China only had an increase of 9%, and this is where the big difference comes in. Because if you have a look at chrome or electricity as an input cost, and this I can share with you as an input cost in terms of producing ferrochrome, it's quite a big portion. It's about 25 to 35% of total cost. So obviously labor is the other one, and raw materials would be the others, and also reductants. But between 25 and 35% of our input costs are directly related to our electricity. Thanks, Jan. Flip over. So just in terms of what we see as the MPA, and this I also presented the previous time. So what would be the benefits to the smelters if we do get it? And I'm specifically now referred to because the other smelters are already in the MPA. But what will this means also for the Rustenburg smelter is that it will mean that there will be a reduced seasonality, and provides a flat rate all year around. This is quite critical for us, because during this time period, where during the winter periods we've got high peak where the electricity is 50% higher in terms of the summer power tariffs, and that means that during that time period, that's the only time that we can do our proper maintenance and all of that. Now, if you think about if that's right through the whole of South Africa, that's the only time that you could have access to services, to contractors, to spares and all of that. And this just makes it really difficult for us. But if we can have it right through the whole year, it means that we can flatten out and make sure that we do have a flat electricity tariff, but also it gives us other benefits in terms of staggering our maintenances. It also gives us a certainty in terms of, for the next 6 years at least, in terms of our electricity prices. And then we know that we won't be in a position that every time we must evaluate are we going to, to shut the furnace or not? What benefit this also gives to the SA economy and Eskom? The tariff will not be subsidized, and it will cover the cost of supply, which I think is is quite important. So that means, and I mean, as you all know, is that smelters are a baseload user. So that means while South Africa is sleeping, we are smelting, and that at least gives Eskom a guaranteed revenue that they can also work. That's the second point. And then also what it allows us, it will help us even better to stabilize the national grid. And I mean, this is one thing that we in Eskom over the last couple of years really has done fairly well, and that's in terms of load shedding and load curtailment. And that's just to make sure that we all have got the responsibility to keep our national grid secured. Go to the next page, please. This is just to show what it means for employment. Now you'll see that in ferrochrome, for every one job that you create in ferrochrome smelting, there's 7 indirect jobs because of the upstream and the downstream. If you compare that to mining, so that means if you only mine the chrome ore without smelting, there we've got a ratio of 1 to 3. Or also aluminium, there's a ratio of 1 to 3. So you can see that in terms of why beneficiation in South Africa is so important, is just the multiplying effect that you do have in that regard. Remember, I did say that there's a 5 times multiplier in terms of the economy, but in terms of job creation, there's a 7 times multiplier. So very important that we do make sure that we secure jobs. If you have a look at the ferrochrome industry versus the aluminium industry, you'll see that we use about 12 terawatt hours per year, where aluminium uses about 11 terawatt hours per year. Thanks. You can go over to the next slide. Thanks, Jan. So this is just quickly touching on the upstream and downstream beneficiation. And as I said, we do use reductants in our production of ferrochrome, and so we are very dependent on the reductants. And you will see that there's many South African anthracite suppliers that we do use, whereby we've got contracts with them, and obviously we don't want to import anthracite. Again, beneficiation or mining in South Africa and using local reductants is much better for us and also for the country. For that reason, there's the upstream beneficiation, but there's also a downstream beneficiation where you all know that Columbus Steel is the only producer of stainless steel in South Africa, and they use South African ferrochrome. Just imagine if they must import ferrochrome, means that there could be a huge amount of job losses there as well, if you just think of the car manufacturing industry. Thanks, Jan. And then just on my last slide, and this has specifically got to do with the Rustenburg ferrochrome smelter. First of all, the employment. It's one of the largest employers. We are one of the largest employers in the Rustenburg area, and we're providing full-time and fixed-time employments of approximately 600 full-time and about 450 dedicated long-term contractors. And remember, again, the 1 to 7 if we do not start up Rustenburg. Then obviously there was quite a debate in terms of electricity, and we've got 6 submerged arc furnaces, and it's the largest consumer of electricity in the RLM licensed area. Just want to say again, remember what I started off to say, that currently we are being serviced, although our agreement, and we recognize that our agreement is between ourselves and the Rustenburg local municipality. The substation is Eskom substation, and it's a pass-through. So whatever Eskom supplies that substation, we are taking that off. Coming back to that point where, for that reason, we believe that there is no services, electron services in that instance. I can just also say that over the last couple of years, we have invested a huge amount of capital to make sure that we can keep the ferrochrome smelter, Rustenburg smelter, competitive. So from a technology perspective, from a maintenance perspective, we didn't shy out to make sure that whenever we start up, and we do have electricity at a competitive price, we will be able to produce safe ferrochrome. And then just in terms of the foreign income, I think that we talked about that, and then also what we must understand is that there's a huge amount of services or social corporate investment that we do give to the local Rustenburg community. And although we show you 20 million being spent over the time period here, but I mean we just opened a substation where we as the PSV contributed 34 million rand to uplift a Rustenburg local municipality substation. So there's various areas that we do give a huge amount of support. Thank you. I think that's the end of my presentation. Just to say again, thank you for the opportunity to present. I'm really hopeful that we can get over the first hurdle by including the Rustenburg smelter into the MPA, and then obviously we will have our negotiations further with the Rustenburg local municipality to see if we can get to an agreement. I can just also say this, that, and I can say this with open and honesty, it's part of our values, is that if the Rustenburg smelter do not get the MPA, first of all, and we must be slapped with a surcharge at a certain time, it means that we are already the highest cost smelter in our operation. And for that reason, I can tell you that from my perspective, where I'm sitting, that it's going to be very difficult to go to the shareholders and tell the shareholders that we must run or operate this complex if it is not competitive and it's not profitable. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's the end of my presentation, and open for any questions in this regard. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Fullard, for your presentation. And so I'll now request the members of the committee to then pose their questions, maybe even comments. So, members, we have the presentation from Mr. Fullard. Any questions, comments? Well, whilst they're still thinking, can I pose two questions to you? And I'm not sure it's something that they can assist with. Yes, you've spoken about the multiplier effects in terms of jobs and in terms of the in terms of the economy. But for me, I don't know if it's something that is possible to do, or is it something that is confidential? Is it possible to give us some indicative prices that if South Africa exports ferrochrome ore per ton of chrome, of contained chrome, how much would that be? Versus if South Africa exports ferroalloys, if the same commodity is beneficiated to ferrochrome, if we're to export just the ferrochrome and not as opposed to exporting the ferrochrome ore, what that price would be. And then lastly, if South Africa were to export stainless steel, I guess what I'm asking is that, if you could, it doesn't have to be the exact numbers, just in quantum, exporting ore versus exporting ferroalloys versus exporting steel. If you can just get an indication on that. Secondly, I note your hand, Mr. Mkhize. Secondly, the one question that I wanted to ask, you are applying for a 6-year NPA. does it give you enough time and visibility to be able to make, if there are necessary technological changes in investments that might be required? It's one thing to, as I call them, the stay in business investments versus growth investments. Does 6 years give you enough visibility to be able to make investments that are intended to grow your participation in country? So those are the two questions from me, but if we can also then take the question from Mr. Mkiza. Mr. Mkiza?
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks to Yapi for the presentation. I would just like to understand from my side. They just to confirm, also to say they have got a contract with the municipality as the smelter, and they supplied by Eskom. They're saying that there is no value add from the municipality. They are in negotiations with the municipality. Just want to have an understanding, because those are some of the things I've heard. Just want to confirm if I heard you correctly, and then to see if that's the case. With regard to negotiations, maybe just to at a high level as to the nature and what is expected by when, as an outcome of those negotiations, and then from my side is that in terms of the calculations at a local economic development level, have those been done in conjunction with the municipality and agreed upon by? Is there some kind of agreement or alignment with regard to those opportunities, and comparing the situation where you've got the smelter functioning versus the not functioning in terms of the cost benefit analysis of this kind of assistance? I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Members, any further questions? If not, if you can assist us with just those 3 questions, Mr. Fulad.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Chair. I can definitely reflect on your first question in terms of chrome ore prices versus ferrochrome prices. So I just want to tell you that for every, and this is generally, let's say, for every 2 tons of chrome ore that you produce, you make 1 ton of ferrochrome. So let's say it's about 2 to 1. I see that there were some balloons going off here. I don't know why, but anyway, hopefully the MPA is already approved. I don't know what happened there, but anyway. So just want to say to you that in terms of chrome ore is in the region of about, let's say, and I'm just using quick value, so it's about 4,000 Rand per ton of chrome ore. That's the revenue. And in terms of ferrochrome, it's about 20. So that's where the 5 times multiplier. Remember when I spoke about the 5 times multiplier comes from. Then if you have a look at stainless steel, now stainless steel, I fortunately do not have the figures on this side, but the big thing is that you in stainless steel you need a couple of let's call it input cost, and one of them would be ferrochrome. So obviously, if it's been made in South Africa, the ferrochrome or stainless steel from South Africa, that's why Columbus are still sustainable, only because of the fact that they're getting ferrochrome from South Africa. If you have a look at stainless steel production, that means that we will have the ferrochrome in South Africa, but then we must import all the other materials like nickel and like iron, that we can also get here. So and for that reason, and I think if you have a look at stainless steel production, back to stainless steel production, also a very high intensive energy user. If it's not under an MPA or something like that, once again, there could be, that's part of the reason why I suspect stainless steel production in South Africa currently in the current form would not be sustainable. The same as what happened with all the ferrochrome smelters. I think because of that 25 to 35% electricity, that's part of your operating cost. That's the biggest one. If you then that's back on that. If you then have a look at your second question, and for that reason, if we get a 6-year MPA, what it will at least do, it will give us the opportunity to even sharpen up on even more efficiencies, because now we've got surety of price, and for that reason, like I said already, there's a lot of capital that we already spent. So the first thing about ferrochrome production in terms of let's call it efficiencies, is that you can only have more and better efficiencies if you have a sustainable operation. And for that reason, in the past, because of, again, Rustenburg smelter always been on the highest cost curve, it's very difficult to then apply for a lot of capital if you do not have a certainty. I can tell you that one of the furnaces, we've got 6, and next year we only plan to run 4. And it's only because of the fact that electricity was the biggest concern, and for that reason, we will not also inject further capital for that. It will allow us, what it will do, Mr. Chair, it will allow us to investigate further opportunities of efficiencies and also technology. And I can give you lots of examples, like our switch gears that we can change out and switch, and let's say changed out already. I could talk about technology advancements like the copper roofs that we've done. And so there's a lot of work that we can then do, but then we must have that surety. If I then go over to the question of the where we stand, the negotiations in terms of ourselves and Eskom versus the Rustenburg local municipality and Glencore, just before I do hand over there to Richard Ward, just from a legal perspective, sum that one up. But what I can tell you is that there's a lot of additional services that we do supply from a Glencore-Merafe PSV perspective to Rustenburg. And I think this is the point here, is that there's a huge amount of investment that we do in terms of services. And like I said, corporate social investments, like, we've got the incubation hubs, we've got small and medium, enterprises. We've got a lot of additional softer issues that we do because we've got the ability to do it whilst the Rustenburg smelter is operating. But I'm going to just ask Richard Ward just to come in terms of the legal perspective on the way forward. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Yoppie. Just if I could respond to Mr. McKeezer on the contractual arrangements, and also just to sort of reference Mr. Myburgh's comments there on. We have existing contractual arrangements with the Rustenburg local municipality, but we support the fact that Eskom will now enter into a new contract with RLM, whereby they'll carve out the Megaflex tariff, and that will be replaced with the MPA energy cost. And we will then enter into an agreement with the Rustenburg local municipality, in other words, a back-to-back, on the basis that the contractual arrangement that Eskom has with RLM will be subject to the condition that they supply us the relevant electricity. And the way that we perceive that happening is that we are going to suggest to the Rustenburg local municipalities attorneys that agreement is then negotiated through their directly between our attorneys and their attorneys. So we believe that will be sort of one way of fast tracking the arrangement. And obviously we recognize that would be subject to all of the Rustenburg local municipalities requirements, legal obligations, etc., etc. Insofar as the support of the NPA process is concerned, you may or may not be aware that Rustenburg local municipality have appealed only the aspect of the judgment in relation to the surcharge, as URP alluded to. So the rest of the judgment that relates to the processing of the NPA, they're not appealing. So thereby they are offering their support to this process, and they've agreed as part of a tripartite agreement between ourselves, NERSA, and the Rustenburg local municipality, their support in terms of that agreement, their support of the fact that this process, this NPA process, can proceed. So we have their verbal support, and we also have their support for the process in writing. So yes, I hope that clarifies both Mr. Makize's questions and certain questions that arose in the earlier part of this public participation process in relation to the Rustenburg local municipality support of the NPA process. I hope that assists everybody and clarifies the position. I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Thank you for that, Richard. And Mr. Chair, just before there's perhaps some more questions, I just want to take this opportunity as well, seeing that it is on a public forum, to thank really both Eskom and also NERSA for the way that this whole process unfolded. It was extremely professional, and for me, it's one of the good news stories. Even if the Rustenburg smelter is included or not, I think that the whole NPA approach was really done extremely professional. So I just want to also recognize all the parties that participated in that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so very much. I think to both yourself, Mr. Ward, and Mr. Pollard, and thank you for actually coming and actually presenting your case, because I think the more these conversations are had, I think the more of us would actually understand what's at stake. We'd like to thank you for your presentation. There are no further questions from the members, and therefore we will then move on to the last presentation, but not the least, but representing the major beneficiaries of employment. We'd like to move on to Ms. Pagamile Majola. If you can show your face, ma'am. I saw you signing in earlier. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Let's just get the formalities out of the way. As you know, that we everybody that makes input into this process has to do that under oath. So would you object to taking an oath or an affirmation?
No, I don't object at all.
Okay, thank you. In that case, kindly raise your right hand and affirm the following.
Like this or?
Yeah. Do you solemnly declare that the information or the evidence that you are going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I swear. I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. For the record, if you can just state your name, the organization that you are representing today, and your designation in it, please.
My name is Pagamile Majola. I am the NUMSA national spokesperson.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't know whether you are making a formal presentation in terms of a presentation, or you're just going to be giving a verbal input.
I'm going to give a verbal input. I've just got notes that I've written, and I'm happy to share the notes with you, but there's no presentation per se. No, there's no.
Right. Please do share the notes after. But
sure.
you've got 30 minutes, ma'am. If you can go ahead, please.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. And I just want to thank the entire NERSA panel for the opportunity to engage, particularly for setting up these public hearings and in allowing NUMSA to participate in the public consultation process on this very important issue. As I said, my name is Pagamile Majola. I am the NUMSA national spokesperson. And I just want to say up front that our input is going to be very short, but at the same time, whilst it is very short, we do think that what we have to say is quite important, because we are not just representing, for the course of this morning, we've heard a lot of numbers. We've heard a lot of numbers around electrons and possibilities of tariffs. But I think the most important number I would like to direct your attention to are the numbers that were presented by the CEO, Mr. Yapi Fullard, around the role that ferrochrome plays in employment in South Africa. That is the most important number. And these are not just numbers. These are human beings. These are workers and their families. These are men and women with children whose children go to school. There's small and medium-sized enterprises that depend on the existence of the smelters in Rustenburg. And as a trade union, the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa has always been at the forefront of defending workers and their families and defending the working class in general. We are not just here to represent the 1,600 workers that we represent at Glencore. We are here on behalf of the working class, who right now are calling on you to take this process and to take their concerns very, very seriously. NUMSA has been very involved in this entire process from the beginning. We were involved in the court application in the form of amicus curiae. And of course, we welcome the decision of the High Court to basically order the Rustenburg local municipality not to impose a surcharge. We also note, however, that the RLM intends to appeal that decision, which we find unfortunate. Just the aspect of the surcharge. We find that to be unfortunate, particularly because the impact would be really dire. I would also again like to direct the panelists to what the CEO said when he said that if they do not get an affordable tariff, then unfortunately they will not be able to justify the existence of Glencore in this region. The stakes, ladies and gentlemen, are extremely high. You have to understand that for us as a trade union to join hands with the employer would require particularly unique circumstances. It would be only because the situation is so bad that we have put aside our differences in order to work together. And this is the situation that we are in right now. We don't often work together with the employer. We don't necessarily agree on many things. But if there's one thing that we agree on right now, is that it is in our interests to fight on the same side, to defend jobs in Rustenburg, and also to defend this economy. We are in a very, very deep crisis in South Africa when it comes to our economic growth and our economic outlook. And we cannot, as a trade union, just sit back and fold our arms and be passive in this process when the outcome could potentially be very, very bad for our members and for the working class in general. And so this is why NUMSA has taken the decision to get involved in this process and to support the court application. But we went further. We even picketed. We went to the Rustenburg local municipality. We organized a picket where we marched there to demand that they take this issue seriously. With all our members, we came out. So our members gave up their a day's work to make their voices heard in defense of their jobs and in defense of the economy. That is how seriously we take this issue. And the reason we've taken it seriously is because if Glencore moves its operations, the Rustenburg municipality will frankly not recover. We're talking here about a municipality that already has a 26% unemployment rate. 34.7% of that is young people. It's youth unemployment. And if you consider the fact that in South Africa, because our joblessness rate is so high, and the fact that we are not creating new jobs, it is very likely that the people who lose their jobs if Glencore shuts down its operations are unlikely to be re-employed ever again. So this decision is putting the lives and the livelihoods of all workers in Rustenburg at risk. And also not just workers who are directly employed, but particularly those along the value chain who depend on the existence of the Glencore smelter. I would like to direct the chair to some of the outcome-orientated goals that I was reading about on the NERSA website prior to presenting before you today. And I'm sure you yourselves are very aware of what these outcomes are, but I'd like to just read them again for the record. And they read as follows. NERSA's outcome-orientated goals are, number one, to facilitate security of supply in order to support sustainable socioeconomic development in South Africa. Number two, to facilitate investment in and access to infrastructure in the energy industry to support sustainable socioeconomic development in South Africa. Number three, to promote competitive and efficient functioning as well as orderly development of the energy industry in order to sustain socioeconomic development in South Africa. Number four, to facilitate affordability and accessibility to the energy, to balance economic interests of all stakeholders in support of socioeconomic development of South Africa and a better life for all. Pardon me. And to position and establish NERSA as a credible and reliable regulator in order to create regulatory certainty. If you look at goals, particularly goals 2 and 4, I think it's safe to say that we are in agreement. We are on the same page. NUMSA shares those objectives as well. We care about job creation and sustainability. We care about the long-term socioeconomic development of the country. It is not to our benefit, to the benefit of our members, if they lose jobs. And it is not to the benefit of Rustenburg and the Northwest province as a whole, if it is plunged into a deeper crisis of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And this is actually the crux of our submission to you today, to say that if we are on the same page and we are in agreement that these are our shared goals, then as NUMSA, we are calling on you as well as NERSA to join hands with us on this agenda to defend jobs and to protect our socioeconomic interests as a country. We are calling on NERSA to recognize that the numbers that have been given to you are not just numbers, and to take that seriously and to fight alongside with us to achieve these goals. So as I end my presentation, my question to you as NERSA is simply that, will you work with us to assist in achieving these goals? The ball is in your court, and we humbly call on you to assist us in this work. It is the responsibility of every single person in this country to defend the economy and to defend jobs. And our simple summed up application is that we are asking NERSA to assist us in achieving these goals. Thank you. That is our submission.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Ajara, for your passionate delivery, capturing the essence of of the challenges that are facing the country. Members, I don't know any questions, comments to the input from NUMSA? Mr. Pokula.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to get a response from NUMSA regarding what the municipality says, that when they do not get this surcharge that they have been getting, when they don't charge the surcharge, then they will also run short of revenue from their side, and therefore would also have to shed some jobs. And I just want to get a comment from NUMSA. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Pokola. Any other questions, members? Seems like that's your only question, Madam, if you can assist us with that.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, and thank you for the question. It's a very difficult question to answer because at the end of the day, there will be suffering. But I think we have to really look at it in terms of what are the socioeconomic objectives that we have collectively as stakeholders who are trying as much as we possibly can to ensure that this country works. I can't think of any other way to put it. And I think we must be frank. We've been let down by this government on this front, on the issue of job creation. We wouldn't be here if our government had done more to protect jobs in the first place. Part of our crisis is persistent blackouts, which, and I know it wasn't mentioned by any of the people who were presenting here, but I can tell you for a fact that it's probably one of the big problems that Glencore is facing, just like it's a problem that NUMSA is dealing with many companies that it's where we're represented in smelters and high energy intensive organizations all over the country are dealing with this issue. So we're fighting a battle on many, many fronts. And we wish we had the support of the government to act in a way that would prevent situations like the situation we find ourselves in now. The Rustenburg local municipality definitely obviously does need much needed revenue, but Glencore is not the only source of its revenue. The state has also got a role to play in ensuring that the RLM is able to function optimally. And the question then becomes is, what has the state done to support the RLM? And this is why we are also here to call on NERSA, because in terms of your own goals and your own objectives, you also have a responsibility to play with respect to dealing with this question. So I think it's a good question because it speaks to the complexity of all of the issues that we're dealing with. And the only way really for me to answer is to bring to the fore all of these competing and dire issues that have a role to play in all of this. But the main issue here is that as a union, we do feel like we are almost on our own in fighting this issue. The fact that we have had to go to such lengths to try and highlight this as a real and pressing crisis is something that is very worrying. And all we can do is ask you to assist us with this in this regard. Thank you.
Ms. Paramila, unfortunately, as indicated, Mr. Ward, if you have a question, it needs to go via the panel because it's the panel members only that can ask the question. If you don't mind, if you have a particular question, if you can forward it to the right parties, so we can pose the question to Ms. Luby. But in the absence of that question that's been sent to us, we will not be able to actually afford you an opportunity, Mr. Ward, to actually ask the question. All right. With that, I think from where I would want to say, in the absence of any other questions from the members, I think we'd really like to thank you for again coming forward and representing, as you say, not just your members, but also representing the economy. I'd like to then thank you on behalf of NERSA, and that yes, please keep coming to NERSA and making these inputs, keeping us on our toes, and also just to give us, sometimes it's just the guidance. Yes, of course, we have to understand that we are a creature of statute, so everything that we do has got to be extracted directly from the law, and also we are driven by frameworks and policies that are published, and we can't act outside of that. So everything that needs to be done is really just to point us in the direction in terms of whatever that is being done, to what extent does it support the framework or is supported by the framework. Ms. Majola, thank you on behalf of NESA. Members, we've actually come to the end of the program today. Apologies, Mr. Ward, for not being able to recognize or to give you an opportunity to ask your question. Unfortunately, the rules are quite clear. Only members of the panel may ask questions to the presenter. We've come to the end of the program today. I guess it's the end of the public hearing, but the start of the decision-making process for us. But as indicated, we are guided by the framework. All we are here to do is just to ascertain that whatever the application that's been made is made within the ambit of the framework, and that also that the decision that we make is legal. And yes, we are bound by court decisions, and therefore whatever that there are court orders in this particular case that we will definitely honor. And like to thank everybody for participating today. Members, I'm not sure whether there's a need to have a post-hearing. I guess we'll then deal with this matter when it comes before us, unless, of course, members feel that we need to then convene after this. But with that, just like to thank all of the stakeholders who have attended this public hearing. Go well and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you,
Afternoon to
everyone.
everybody. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.